Hello everybody. I think I should be live at this point. So today, I'm still practicing recently, right? 3D and stuff, even though I haven't been making many videos. And so today I had this idea to do a live stream for the first time ever, right? So I was thinking about just sharing my screen while doing my work here, and I see the first few people have joined already. Thank you for the comments right away. Okay, well, I will just keep going here on my sculpt and continue doing my thing, and feel free to, like, ask me all kinds of questions in the meantime. Like, it's kind of hard to keep track of the comments, I guess, but I'll do my best to like catch up with the questions if you have any. So where are you guys from, by the way? Like, I'm kind of curious about that. Oh yeah, and by the way, about the sculpt that I'm currently making, I'm kind of practicing lots of anatomy recently for like face sculpting, and so I try to approach it one by one, like one part at a time. And right now I'm still stuck with the nose for like the past couple of weeks, so I make lots of sketches of the nose and I look at all the bones related to that part. And you're not seeing it, but I have like reference images of this kind of bone in front of me, and I'm just trying to, get used to the shapes and especially think about how the shapes are related to what you see on the surface of the face. Okay, somebody's listening to my voice in the background, I see. Well, I hope that helps you to relax. Yeah. So it has been a while since I've uploaded anything on YouTube, right? The thing is that I'm just in university and things are quite busy here. Maybe you can understand the situation. But it's really fun, actually. I mean, maybe you remember when I said previously that I'm in Japan now. I get to study the language like 4 times a week, and what else? Yeah, and I study about business management there, which is quite a completely different subject from what I was actually interested in, but it is becoming quite a good experience as the university is very diverse in like the people who come and attend here. So it's lots of practice in communication skills and team working skills. So I'm really happy for my choice. Oh, we have people from Taiwan, Indonesia, and someone from Germany. That's cool. We have here quite many people from Indonesia, speaking of which. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, the university here is called Asia Pacific University in the south of Japan. It's really a good place if you're young and you're looking for a university and you want to come to Japan. This is a good place to kind of start because they have lots of scholarships and stuff, but I'm sure you know for yourself what you want, so. So somebody asked if I still do the anime character models. So to answer this question, I want to explain a little bit about how I feel about character modeling in general. Like, to me, it has never really been only about Japanese animation style. What I'm really into is the whole the stories and the ideas and the art. And I feel that the Japanese animation style is very, very efficient in like telling stories, and that's why I really like it. I still like it a lot, but I kind of also realized that I want to learn in like the more general field, to be able to do humans in a realistic style as well. So while I'm still doing it, sometimes I don't think I will be doing it mainly anymore, or at least for the next couple of years, to really try to improve my my skills in like the natural things. I mean, after all, anime is also based on the reality, right? You can't just skip anatomy, in my opinion. You should learn where it all comes from and then like see how it relates to what you see in animation. Clothing, I guess I would like to cover that at some point in the future, but there's really still a lot to learn for myself. And the thing is, I can tell you a bit about the way they do clothes recently. Because there is this new tool called Marvelous Designer, right? You've most probably heard of it, the simulation tool, where you just make, you know, a sheet of cloth and you drop it on the characters and it looks quite amazing. From what I've heard in interviews and so on, is that they even use these in production for bigger studios, but they continue sculpting on it because every character will have these wrinkles even planned out, like they have to align with the joints sort of to support or suggest the ankles in some cases. And so if I was to do something like a video on that, it would probably be a combination out of using Marvel's Designer to get the, like, you know, the base mesh sort of done and to get everything in place. And then I would be using ZBrush again to continue. And kind of this leads me into the other question about Blender, because many people keep asking if I use Blender still or if I have changed my path. So I just again feel like I need to grow my skills into a wider, you know, be able to do more. So I'm thinking about leaving Blender for a while and exploring ZBrush in particular a lot, and Maya, because after all, this is what you need to get a job in the industry. Yeah, I mean, you can be the loyal Blender fan, you know, not use anything but Blender, but if your goal is to make entertaining products, I think yeah, sticking with Blender too much is not the right thing, or at least that's how I felt. So I kind of try to learn new things at the moment, and this is also sort of what led me into not making too many videos, because really I can't talk too much about something that I'm not too experienced with. Yeah. So I tried sculpting in Blender, but I've never been really happy with how things turn out. Like, even if I'm able to get something done in ZBrush and I try to do the same thing in Blender, it just doesn't really work that great. I really can't explain why that is, because it's not supposed to be about the tools usually. Like, usually it's the artist who just doesn't know how to deal with the tools, but I just couldn't get it right. So I really like the tools that ZBrush offers to answer that question. Yeah, so I told you, right, that I'm working on a nose, or kind of trying to learn about the anatomy around that area. So what I'm trying to do right now is to get this bone in place, and now I'll try to, you know, fill in the other parts, muscles maybe, and then put a skin on top of it. I can show you what I did before this. In this file I just have all the noses that I made in the past month. This is sort of the same approach I did a bit ago, so there should be, give me a second. Yeah, so I did another skull like this. I filled in all the anatomy as far as I could at that point, and then I basically put a skin on top, and this was actually the first version, and then I just tried it again with the same things inside, and the second one worked a little bit better. And I compared these things to like my previous sculpts where I just went into sculpting, you know, without any references, and these tended to be to lack quite some detail. So that's when I decided to like go in and study the anatomy first, and then the outcome was a bit better. But then I tried to go back again without modeling bones and see if I can get closer to it now. So it's kind of a back and forth for me, a real studying process in this whole anatomy field. So ZBrush is expensive, yeah, because somebody's asking, but they're now offering ZBrush Core, which I'm currently using, which is a cheaper, way cheaper version of ZBrush that lacks many features. But if you just want to, you know, get started with sculpting, it offers you the most important things. So I don't feel limited at all. Yeah, I'm also glad that I'm still alive. Yeah, if you have any questions, like keep asking in the chat. It's kind of hard to sculpt while talking. It's the first experience for myself to do a live stream here, but I'm kind of surprised about how little progress I'm making here. Anyways, I'll try to keep you entertained and make some progress here. Yeah, so by the way, sorry for not like saying your YouTube names when I read your questions. It's kind of, yeah, really hard to pronounce your names. Torque Drake asks if I'm doing Maya and 3ds Max now because I'm trying to get into the industry, and yeah, that's kind of the idea. I figured that even if I end up going for my, what should I say, my own thing, even if I end up setting up my own little business, like it's better to start approaching it in a way as if my goal was to get into a company, because that will force me to learn the skills that I would need to, well, do either my own thing or like a company. So if you just have a plan B, right? If something goes wrong, then you can still switch to the other. That's kind of the idea behind that. But obviously, I wonder where I'll end up. I still have like a few years before I will search a job, because as I said, I'm still in university and stuff. But I'm aiming to be like ready to get some jobs that in like 4 years or so. So because this whole thing has become now a lot more realistic, like getting a job and so on, I've been way more conscious about that. And that's what basically led me to the decision to do different things that actually, yeah, are useful to companies and I like it a lot, to be honest. The other thing that I was thinking is that like I'm thinking about why do these great artists get so good at sculpting and making characters, and obviously the answer to that is that they have tons of practice. That would mean that either they have an amazing amount of endurance and they just can keep themselves motivated for years, or something different. And I kind of think that the reason why they get so good is that they get into a company and they are forced to deliver like outcomes on a daily basis. And so this is what then actually drives them into working 8 hours a day, and what raises their skill. So because I'm not sure if I'm able to like stick with it that much on my own will, again, I was thinking to maybe joining company would be a better decision, at least, you know, for a couple of years, so that you can get the experience that somebody would get there, like thinking about character designs, for example, on like 8 hours a day. And this is what then eventually would make a good artist, is what I thought. So this is my current path. I'm curious about some of you, like, I know many people who are subscribed here are really still loyal to Blender, and this is this like sort of debate that comes up very often. I'm curious about your arguments, like what makes you stick with Blender so much. So feel free to leave it in the comment, and I can continue talking about that a bit. And hello to the new people who joined. Of course, it makes me very happy to see so many people here today. Okay, give me a second, I'll be right back. Someone is knocking my door. Okay, sorry for that. Then maybe tell me about what kind of 3D modeling you're interested in. Like, for me it's obviously character art for the most part, but how about you people out there? Somebody else is asking, by the way, about how to rig clothes and hair, as I can see. And it depends really on your application, is what I would say from what I know so far. Basically, in games, they do have capabilities to simulate certain parts already, as our like computing power has gotten better recently. But for clothes, there are still many cases where you would just rig them with bones or something. Like, it really depends. If you have a cape or something, you probably, or a skirt, you won't get away with doing this what is it, rigging thing, because either you'd have to, like, even if you animate it one by one, it's kind of too much effort to be realistic. But on clothes that is, for example, a sleeve of a shirt that is not moving too much, you can do rigging for that and just indicate some static wrinkles for the most part. But then again, once you do a cape or something, most likely you'll do simulation in the game engine. And when it comes to movies, animated movies, I'm pretty sure that you can go with simulations all the way these days. Do hair simulation, do clothes simulation. So depending on your tools, that shouldn't be too much of a decision there to make. Good point. Somebody else is telling that anime modeling tutorials and things like that are quite rare, and I have quite some good information to share on that, I think, because it's really funny. I was feeling really exactly the same way a few years ago. There was really nothing out there. I could search a lot and I would just not find anything. And that's kind of still the case, but then it depends on how you search, is what I found out. And it was one of the reasons why I decided to come to Japan, because I had this idea that, because in Japan they have so much about it, right? There has to be more educational material in this country, in this language. And it turned out to be true. In Japan there are quite many books, quite many, not many videos. I don't think YouTube is too much of a thing, to be honest. But as for books and events where people sculpt, or generally people who do this as a job in Japan, there are many, more than you would think, and the quality goes very high, like more than I thought people are doing out there. And for example, another thing that I kind of never knew if it was true or not, I was just guessing that, do you know these plastic figures? that I always thought it would be amazing if they made it with ZBrush, and it turns out that's quite true these days. All of these collectible figures are sculpted with ZBrush and 3D printed. Of course, not all of them. There are still many hand sculpted ones that are sold, but ZBrush is also quite present these days in that kind of industry. And so you will get more and more interaction here with these artists, even though I did not have the honor yet to meet many people here. Give me a second. Well, yeah, I just think what I'm basically trying to say is that for the people living around the world, that you can really find more about that when you come to Japan and actually learn the language, because the language barrier is kind of sorry for that. The language barrier is kind of stopping the flow of information, I feel. So definitely think about learning a new language. It will help you. Yeah, somebody's asking why the video is in such a weird, what is it? Hate to width ratio. That's because I don't have a second screen, and I still want to keep track of the comments that you're posting. So you're not seeing it, but my screen is actually wider than this. Well observed there, I guess. Do you think these streams are a good idea? I mean, I don't think I will be doing these too often, as I'm not able to focus so much on my sculpt, and as I said, I really want to focus on practicing. But would you like to see more of these and get the chance to ask questions? I guess I can also do some preparation and show something during the streams that you could learn from. Because as I don't have the time to make videos, this is one alternative that I could do instead, because I think I have some spare time to just every now and then, start a stream. I'm just not really sure if this is like the most exciting thing. I don't really know many other people to get on board as well, to like have a conversation here with. But if you think we could turn this into something that is educative to people, then let me know that opinion, and I will kind of work with it. For today, this is kind of just a test to see if things work technically and with me and talking. It is quite different to stream live instead of recording video, I have to say. Let's see, what are people asking? So projects besides practicing, not really, because the thing is, I figured out that I really lose lots of like concentration, or what is it? I lose my focus. That's what I'm trying to say. On every project, basically, if I spend like what is it? Switching between too many things, and I have already to keep a good GPA at university as well. So it's kind of hard enough to like work things out the way they are, but okay. The other thing I want to say is that I want to get better. That's very important to me. So I thought that because projects make me less efficient in like making things, actually, I should take a break and just practice for a few years, maybe. Obviously, things always change, like as I changed again recently with my whole opinion on how I should get better as an artist, but yeah, that's something. Yeah, and I'll be doing more sculpting, as I mentioned before already, but I'm still not 100% confident. As you can see, I'm not a great sculptor yet, but I feel a bit proud of coming to this point within just like 2 years, because I was doing purely polygon modeling for the last couple of years. I mean, couple of years, I should say more like 8 years. And now that I'm finally allowing myself to switch, yeah, I kind of have to get used to it. And it takes a while, but for 2 years getting to here, I think it's not too bad. And if I put more effort into it from now on, I think I can get to where I want to be on time. So that's the good news here. Yeah, some people would like to have a stream about me making an anime character, which is really good. I would love to do that, but I have recently lost my confidence in that, so can you hear the background noise, by the way? Somebody's having a birthday. Yeah, I live in a dorm, by the way, so things are a bit noisy. Sorry for that. What was I saying? Yeah, stream about characters. Well, I don't want to put any pressure on myself for having to deliver results. That's very important, because I think that was one of the reasons for why I stopped doing like 3D in general, actually, for almost a year. I didn't really talk about that too much, but I had this quite long period of time where I didn't do any 3D projects or art projects at all. I just couldn't find the motivation, and the reason for that was just that the expectations were kind of too high. Like having to deliver something that's better than last time, and then you always know that it could be better, but you try and it just doesn't work out. So that's kind of difficult to deal with. So then that's why I kind of decided to just go back to practicing. And so I'm not sure if I can do this stream with a real character project. It could be as practice, but not as a, you know, as a serious title. Let's make a character. Yeah. Yeah, I do try to interesting question. Sorry, there is somebody asking, do you have a hard project or hard game which you would like to produce? Do you mean by that like an idea that I continue to have for a long time and that I always wanted to produce, or someone in the future? Is that sort of what you're asking? And I'll now just start moving on with the skin, by the way. I'll just try to get something done here so that you can see difference. Yeah, okay. So apparently that's what he or she was asking. So I have a couple of motivations that really drive me, like things that I want to do in the future with my 3D skills. And one of them would be that I'm really into the idea of VR content, like virtual reality. I haven't spent too much time with VR yet because it's just so difficult to get my hands on it at this point. But I have tried most of the headsets at least once at some event, and I really love the idea of character interaction, of you talking to or listening to what people say in VR, and I just feel like it has such a huge potential to be an amazing experience. So I really want to get into that and to bring my characters to life. And so this is sort of this goal that short-term goal that I set for myself. I will buy myself a VR headset, but only when I'm back to making characters. Like right now I'm only doing parts like noses or mouths and then trying to combine them, obviously. But the next time I finish a whole character, and if it's successful and next time I manage to get a good character done, I will get my headset and then I'll start playing around with like bringing these characters to life. So, and in the long term, I guess this is something that interests me a lot. Getting my characters into into a story, into some interactive experience, maybe. Could be games, could be animation movies, but I really want to see the characters moving and to have that. And sculpting hands and torso is something that people are interested in, apparently, in the chat. I will be moving on to that, but one step at a time. Yes. So this month is my focus will be on noses. I can show you the stuff that I made, speaking of which. And then I'll be focusing on mouths, then eyes, and then, you know, combine it and do faces as a whole. And I always try to do all varieties. As you can see here, I tried different sizes, different shapes. These are just the sculpts that I did over the past couple of days and weeks. And obviously these take me a long time at the beginning. Like one could be an hour of me just, you know, fiddling around with it, changing things over and over, trying children's noses, trying old people noses, and trying to do it with anatomy. So I've been doing quite a lot of this sort recently. Oh yeah, and I tried to integrate it into a character, but you see still here that my skills really aren't there yet. At this point, maybe I could get a good nose on this face, but I really can't express a character's character personality yet. So that's why I'm doing one by one and trying to do these different variations to learn about what kind of shapes tell what story. Yes, that's the plan. Wow, 40 people watching. That's amazing. Yeah, somebody with the name Alexander just told me that I could just stream my sessions without talking, and I think that is what I might do in the future. I don't dislike talking. I will do it from time to time, but obviously this is not the best way to get some practice. Yeah, it's not really becoming too much of a practice if I keep talking too much. But I think I should share what I'm doing, at least in some form. Oh, sounds great. Somebody has a dream in the chat about making a game. If you don't mind, share it with us. I would love to hear your idea. What it is that you're trying to make in the future when you get to do all kinds of 3D models. Personally, as for games and well, let's start with games. I'm really interested in RPGs, but not because I like them or because I play them. The funny thing is I don't play games at all, at least not for the past 5 or 6 years. There is just not enough time, I feel. But the idea really amazes me. This idea of you being in a world being a character, basically taking the role of the character in a different world and playing his decisions or her decisions and doing all that stuff. So that would be cool. Ah, good idea. I should maybe speak more about the sculpt that I'm making. Somebody just suggested. I guess I can do that. So, at least until like a few questions come in that make sense to answer. So, I'm right now thinking about, because I tried to put the skin on top, right? And I'm kind of a bit lost into where to place things. So I don't want to do too much guesswork here. So I'm thinking about actually going back and doing the few bones that are still missing here and the other pieces of fat tissue. So let me just go back then and do some editing there. And in 3D it's always, well, people always reuse things. So I'm also going to do that by reusing these couple of meshes that I created previously. I'll just copy them and kind of get them in here to save some time. Let's see. Okay. So, can anybody tell me what this is called in English? It's not a bone, it's not a muscle, it's not fat. There is this other part in anatomy that often comes up, which I don't know the name of. So, yeah, all the native speakers, please help me out there. It's kind of this soft parts that connect joints, the thing that I'm talking about, if you have any idea. Actually, even if you guys tell me or ask me if that's what I mean, I don't even know if that's true. Well, this is actually not one of those. This is a fat tissue, the one that I'm having here right now. But the next part that I will get in here will be one of those. Cartilage. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Thanks there. Yes, exactly. So I'm trying to get that part in because, yeah, these are the things that make the shape in the end. And the funny thing is, you get quite a good feeling of how thick the skin is by doing so, or where the volume comes from. I've been questioning this a little bit of whether practicing anatomy is a good idea, because in the end you're never really modeling these parts anyways, so why practice them? But I feel like it makes sense because it really helps you get more confident with the shapes. So here is now the other part, and sorry, I don't know the names of these anatomical parts yet. I cannot recall them, at least. I know the bones so far. Yeah, I can maybe say that this is the maxilla, the big bone here, but I'm still learning. And I'm really enjoying it. So I'm taking my time. Okay. So see how now that I've brought these parts in, it's really a lot easier to imagine where the nose will be, like when I try to add the skin on top, right? So that is why I went for this decision. So as for anatomy of the nose, I guess I can tell you a little bit about that. This part, this cartilage, I think, is on top of this part, which is a fat tissue. And this is a very subtle detail on the nose that people very often overlook. So if you're wondering about how you can make your noses more realistic, try looking into this one. This could be one of the reasons. You see how it's almost straight, but it has this little indent, and you'll find this one on your nose too if you want to search for it, I guess. And yeah, the shape of this also explains why we have this kind of little bump here inside of the nose. which is very easy to see with this sort of approach to modeling. And this is again what becomes the great lesson in this practice session of anatomy. Yeah, so if you want to learn anatomy, there are so many ways to approach it, right? And I'm not sure myself what the best way would be. I would never claim to have the best solution to it, but I feel that always asking yourself which part you don't feel yet comfortable with, or that's not maybe the right way to put it. Always checking it with some reference and kind of trying to find places where it's still different is a way to approach it. And I don't sculpt everything. I very much go back to drawing on paper, and I do like 20 drawings and then I go and sculpt it again. I try to switch a lot between the techniques of making these models. So like draw, sculpt, and make, I don't know, there are different approaches too. And then this kind of all adds up to better knowledge. And it's really often about comparing it to some reference. For example, after I make this, I will compare it to the previous model that I made and see if it looks better or worse, and which parts in particular were different, and if that made a positive effect on the whole model. And I'll also compare it to like real pictures and try to tell if I'm still missing something important, or if I'm kind of there already. So that's kind of, yeah, the approach that I'm using. Yeah. Sorry, just trying to catch up with some comments here. I just thought of something useful maybe. I'm sure you guys look at other YouTubers too who do sculpting or modeling of characters. Who do you guys watch? I'm kind of curious about that myself, because it's quite hard to find like the good people who you can learn from. And of course you can also learn from each other in the chat. Like if you want to share, feel free to do so. That's kind of something interesting to hear maybe. Personally, I can tell you about a few that I can recall quickly. There is this channel, what was it again? Bob Chu, I think, streams with Bob Chu. Wait a second, I'll look it up. Like there are a couple of channels where they invite artists from the industry every now and then. Yeah, Bobby Chiu. I hope that's how you pronounce it. And they will kind of interview these people for an hour while they're working on something. And those are very educative. Like, I learn a lot from those. Yeah, there you have some people. Oh, Mark Burnett. Is that the guy who also does the, what is it, Boost Brush website? Is that the right name? Maybe I'm mixing people up. Yeah, the Pixelogic channel is really good though. I also watch that one. They have like similar live streams very frequently where they invite these artists to share their techniques and to do live sculpts. I can also really recommend that one. So now I'm back to sculpting a bit. What I'm trying to do here with the brush strokes, I try to go with the flow of the muscle anatomy that I know from looking at pictures, of course. Like if I know the tissue below has a certain direction, or you know, you often can simplify the shapes into simpler ones, and especially if you learn drawing these parts. That's why I also do lots of drawing, because they will teach you how to simplify shapes. They will have simple shapes which you can give a direction, and then I try to do my brush in that direction. That kind of makes it easier to capture the shape. That's one little advice that I can give out of my little experience so far with ZBrush. But it kind of works. And I feel like things are getting more into place now with these new parts. Okay, but let me focus a bit on the nose. I kind of got the shape around a bit in place, but I don't want to focus on that too much. So as for the nose, let's see. Oh, I use Dynamesh, by the way, to like enable myself to get in more detail, but I try to not overdo it. So you see still a lot of points here, polygons and stuff. But this is just right. Like, I want to have the ability to smooth a lot, so that's why I kind of stick with this low resolution. Okay, but about the nose, one thing down here is that this fat tissue here curves and is on top of the bone, and you can really see it like staying on top and kind of going inside. So by knowing this, you can make the decision to keep the crease here in front, which I'm trying to emphasize now. You don't want to do it too strong, but this is kind of where this crease originates from. And then, like, behind that, the crease gets very subtle quickly. Like, when you think about noses, you feel like this crease goes a lot deeper, or at least I did when I started out. Like, by feeling it I would think like that it goes up to here somewhere. But well, looking at noses, it wasn't that intense. I'll just try to get it into the model, and you'll see what I mean. And another thing that I was surprised about seeing is that the tip of the nose is a lot wider than I had expected. When you look from the bottom, yeah, noses can really look like this from the shape. So yeah, that was also another surprise that I got from like looking at lots of images and going back and forth, trying it, seeing what's wrong, and going back and redoing it. I have another question for the chat. I'm kind of curious about what your goals are in art. I hear many people in the comment section, like also on normal videos, saying that they need models, they're working on a project, and I'm always thinking, I'm really curious about what if they just have a certain project that I want to make, or if they want to get into the industry and do this as a job. So if you don't mind to share a bit about your plans for the future, definitely let me know in the comments. I'm really interested. And there is this part of the nose, by the way, which goes a bit wider, and this is, by the way, where the bone sort of starts. So the bone will be sort of around here, like this. There's this round shape, right? It will kind of start here at this wide part and go in there, and the nose is a bit wider than the hole in the skull, because the fat tissue is of course on top of that, and yeah, it doesn't line up exactly. So putting that in is also again an indication of the anatomy below it. Yeah, but I don't have the full anatomy down there. You see that I actually skipped the bone here, and this is a bit off as well. Like, okay, let me fix this a little bit. Like, this is supposed to be a bit higher up here in this case, and now there's supposed to be another bone connecting this. So I guess if I just put it in there, it's going to be alright somehow. Right now I'm not looking at references anymore, by the way. Yeah, it would be kind of too much of a back and forth between all the things that I have on my desk right now and set up. So for now I will just do it by guessing, and later on after the stream maybe I'll go back and compare and kind of make improvements. But I mean, I know the rough shape, so I guess I can put it in. How should I start? I guess I'll make a new shape then. So a way how I like to add new objects, by the way, is to use the primitive brush, where you can press M to get these primitives in the menu, and then you can choose which one you want. You just press on it and then you drag and drop it, and it will be part of the subtool or an object, if you want to call it like that. And because it's masked, you can quickly split the unmasked parts, and then you have a new object very quickly in the right place, and you can, you know, start stretching it. This is kind of the approach that I like to use to starting quick new objects, because ZBrush obviously works very different from most other 3D tools. It doesn't really feel like working with objects, really. It's more like yeah, I like comparing it to drawing always, because sculpting is really like drawing almost. And this bone is probably too high, but I'm just trying to make up for the little bit that I miss here, but I'll compare it later to some references and figure it out. But for now I think I can move on with this much. And so the nose will, so for example, you can see now that only by doing this I figured out that the bone is only starting here, so my bump in the nose is supposed to be a bit higher up. So this is kind of why I like playing around with the anatomy, because only this now tells me that I was actually quite off with my placement of a couple of features here. And so this again becomes a little bit of a lesson here for myself. Give me a second, I want to go to the comments for a moment. Okay, so AJ Edwards wants to study animation and visual effects, and somebody with Digital God. You guys have interesting names on YouTube. Anyways, he wants to get good at modeling and programming to do the things for himself. Like, you know, I guess he has his own ideas and projects that he wants to make a reality with the skills. And GL Graphics says he doesn't want to go, or she doesn't want to go into the industry, but instead be an artist. I guess that's what it's sorry, it's kind of hard to keep track of these comments and reading them. I'll do my best. Yeah, live streams with me are rare. Better watch them now. No, I don't know. Maybe I'll do more from now on. It's just that the first one is kind of the hardest, I guess. I will be looking at the stream later and see if it's worth becoming a video or not, I guess. But I think at least on Patreon I will make it accessible. And I guess you can just save the link and you can access it later, because it might be on unlisted and you should be able to like rewatch later. I guess for the people who join live that they can, I don't mind. You can just watch it. And Rania Ben said, wow, another interesting YouTube name. I really want to work in animation or video games. Yeah, that's also a great industry. Just finishing reading the comment for a second. Oh yeah, so here she is, also really new to modeling. Apparently started just a couple of weeks ago. So I can talk a bit about advice that I would give to people starting out. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is that becoming a 3D modeler or an artist is a very long journey. And the last thing that you want to do is to expect too much of yourself. It's the best to have no, like in my opinion, of course only my opinion, I don't know what really works best for you. You should always think about what, about how you can keep yourself in there, but try not to pressure yourself with I have to get a job or I have to make this project happen by then and then. If your goals are not realistic or putting yourself into too much pressure, people tend to just stop it, as I did myself. So it's very easy and common to get into this problem of, you know, stopping because it's just too hard to continue doing it, or just there is not enough success or something like that. So you want to just do it because you want to get better as an artist, maybe. That could still mean that you want to practice every day like I do now, but you might want to approach it with a different mindset than I have to make this project or I have to get into the industry. It's even better if you completely agree in your mind with aiming for a different job, like maybe you just want to go to business school and learn business instead and do 3D as your very intense hobby on the side, so that you can seriously say that I'm aiming for a job in business, which I study for, but then art is, you know, if art works out well, I guess I will do art, sort of approach. For me, that worked to get me back on track, and it's pretty much what I'm doing here right now. I'm far, like, believe me, I'm far from having the skills that I would need to join some companies. I mean, maybe some smaller studios would gain from my services, but I'm far from bigger studios and companies that really need the world's best artists. So because I don't have the confidence to say I will be there in a few years to serve them with my skills, I just well, tell myself it's alright to get a different job, just aim for something way lower. And I know it's going to work out because I know that these other goals will go well. Like, at least those have to go well. I know that I'm doing enough to reach those. And then I still have so much extra time that I just continue doing this as a hobby, and with, you know, the hope that maybe one day I can do this. And the important part is that because I know that it doesn't matter if I finish practicing at 20 or at 30 or at 50. It can be any time, but I can, at any time, if I keep practicing, at any time become this 3D artist that I wanted to be. So this is kind of giving lots of motivation, confidence, this way of thinking about it. And something like that, of course, adjusted for yourself, your way of thinking, might help you to stick with it. But then, you know, you will have to study for many years. So get started, don't stop, and motivate yourself all the time. And be happy about, you know, every little progress. And I have another, I hope I'm not missing out on your questions too much, but another story that I want to share. about why in particular I'm approaching studying this way right now. Hello, I think I'm back. Let me know if you can hear me again. That would be great. Um, am I back? Okay, great. Okay, great. So yeah, I just left you guys at the most important part, I guess. It was really funny because I didn't notice at all. I was so into talking about the topic that I didn't realize what people were saying in the chat, and then somebody knocked on my door, which was my friend from next doors, telling me, "Hey, I was watching your live stream and your audio is gone. Do something about it." And so yeah, thanks to him. I know. So where did until when did you hear what I was saying? If somebody could quickly tell me, that would help me. Because I think I was just at one of the most interesting parts. And thank you for all your comments in the meantime. Kind of going back, reading a couple of them right now. Well, so, okay, I'll just try to say again what I was just saying. Did you hear the story about the circle? Like, people... So you want to try to reduce the amount of information that you learn at once as much as possible, because only that will force you to not force you. It will make you see your progress on a daily basis. Like, imagine you're trying to model faces, and it takes you a whole day to make one face. But so of course, obviously, after modeling one face, you won't have improved a lot at making faces. you know, if you try to make another face on the next day, it will pretty much be the same. And here is this kind of strategy that I just found out recently. If you dial the amount of things that you do at once way down to, for example, just the nose, you can do 10 noses a day. And so because of that, because of being able to make 10 noses and another 20 drawings on a single day, you allow yourself to see actual progress on a daily basis. And just before I compared that to practicing how to draw a circle with a stable hand and stroke. Because if you were to practice that for a day, you're very likely going to have good results. Like you'll see that your line has improved after a day. And that's what I'm doing here. And I suggest you guys to try that if you're interested. If you're learning something but you lose motivation or you don't see progress, set a monthly goal. Like really leave a lot of time as well. Noses might seem doable, you know, if I focus on noses, I can do it in 1 week. It's something that people might think because they have so much motivation in the moment when they set their goals. But I actually I gave myself more than a month for just noses, and every time I finish one, I realize how much more there is I still don't know well, or how much there is I could still get more confident about. And so this really drives my learning experience recently, and I really suggest it. And now let me quickly go through some comments, because I have been talking for a long time. Everybody doing great? Yeah, okay. Let me continue working then. Thanks for the support, by the way, for all the nice comments. Yeah, so, by the way, I have made quite some progress here in the meantime, I feel. And now I can kind of finally start working on the details of the nose. So, if you remember the parts inside here, I can show them a little bit with this overlay. You can see how the nose will be. You know, because of what's below, you will need a little bit of an indent here, which is caused by the overlapping cartilage, was it? And the fat tissue here. It also tells you which part will be more soft, which part will be stiffer, and things like that. We know because of the shape that there will be a bit of a corner here and a little bit of an edge here. So these are the things from like looking a lot at references, touching people's noses, and all that stuff that you will get from practicing in this way. And in stylized pieces, you don't need to push these details too far as for realism, but the interesting thing is that they're still in there, very subtle, but in very good 3D work. These anatomical details will be present even in stylized pieces. So knowing that is also important for studying into that direction. Is there anybody from Japan in the chat, by the way? I'm curious if people I mean, okay, I know one or two friends of mine are watching next in the next door, but in the next room, but I mean like other people from somewhere in Japan that I don't know. I have a couple of questions about your opinion regarding the Japanese community, if there was anybody. So just let me know. So, is anybody working on their projects right now while listening to the stream? What are you guys up to while listening? I bet you guys are not watching this too much. Or personally, I don't really watch streams actively too much when I watch them. I just listen to them. Yes, I'm in Japan right now. I know that many of you want to come to Japan. Obviously, this channel is quite focused around that culture. Do you have any questions about that maybe? I have experienced being an exchange student both during high school and university. I mean, as I am here as a university student. If you have any questions about that, feel free to ask. Yeah, it has been a while. Nice to be back on YouTube. Thanks for the comment. I was thinking about something kind of interesting, by the way. I'm obviously not going to do that too soon because I want to focus on my 3D art a little bit. But I was thinking about doing some events where everybody can participate, as in, or everybody, more like a study camp sort of. I mean, imagine I was going to set up a place somewhere in Japan, maybe in Tokyo or something. Sorry, I was thinking about Kyoto actually. And imagine I was just going to be there for a week and ask people to join me there, to just sit there for like 1 week straight basically and practicing 3D together. Would people be interested in that? I mean, most people would have to come from abroad, but I mean, if it's just 2-week trip basically and you get maybe a cheap place to stay, would you consider it worth the price? Obviously, if maybe the quality of everything would get a bit better in the future. Because yeah, there is only so much that you can learn in like a tutorial, and I really like for myself to even to sit next to people who are doing this and to just show each other like the progress and to see what everybody's interested and motivated in and teaching and things like that. So I was thinking about doing that maybe in some summer next year or in 2 years, if people are interested. Okay, and hi again to the new people who joined. I guess for those who didn't hear what I was saying in the first half of the stream, I just quite randomly decided to do a stream actually, because it's one of the only ways for me to at the moment find the time to share what I'm currently doing. Maybe I'll be doing these a bit more. Maybe I'll do them without talking, just so that I can focus more on what I'm doing. But thanks for stopping by today, and hey, hi to you too, Chiang Boy. I should greet the people who join and say hi. I still have a lot to learn. So, Albane Edge asks me, Daniel, do you got to know about the new shader Blender has? It's called the Principled shader. To be honest, I'm really not up to date with Blender. I've heard something about there being a new viewport, like something that's like used in the game engines, the same sort of algorithms. But to be honest, I'm not up to date anymore on that. So what's going on in the Blender side of things? Can anybody tell me? Physically based render. Well, I mean, we had cycles, right? Is there a new one now? Is cycles not up to date anymore? Oh man, look, this is really how much I was out of 3D and Blender for the past couple of months because of the things that I had to do. Ah, yeah, I know the denoise system though. I actually tried that because I was so glad to see that myself. Yeah, I played around with the denoise one. Like, for those who don't know, Cycles is the physically based render engine in Blender that most of you probably know. It kind of does the ray tracing thing, so it starts out with this noisy picture and gets better over time. And they always used to have this problem where it would take forever to get a noise-free picture, and now they added a feature to, with image processing, get rid of some of the noise in a more effective way internally. And so that was a really good addition, I feel. Somebody out here asked a good question. Ear1, I hope that's how it's pronounced. If Blender is a good place to start learning before moving to ZBrush. And I think probably in the end it doesn't matter where you start, thinking about it, but it is definitely a good place to start because there are things that you don't learn in ZBrush. I mean, imagine vector art compared to painted art, digital painting. That's how sculpting and polygon modeling compares. You can continue sculpting and become good at it without even realizing what polygons are, without ever learning that. You can just, you don't need it actually, unless you want to do retopology. But then again, at some point, even if you do sculpting, you will get there to a point where you have to learn about polygons, because as I said, you might want to do retopology and stuff. So you will learn it one way or the other, but if you don't want to spend too much money at the beginning, just try things. And maybe you also want to avoid some very frustrating first couple of sessions, which people usually have in ZBrush, because it's very hard at the beginning, the first couple of times. Yeah, you might want to start with Blender. I did so myself. I mean, it just gets hard to change back, obviously, because you get used to Blender and then you feel really comfortable there. And it was almost impossible for myself to convince myself that I wanted to try changing software. But if you kind of don't mind that, or if you feel like you just want to get started without spending money, and Blender is totally capable of doing all these things, it's just a matter of your practice, yeah, you can totally get there. It's a good place to start. Yeah, Polygon could be a name of a Pokemon. That's true. That would work. And apparently the engine for Blender, the viewport or rendering engine that's in work for Blender, that's currently being implemented, is called EEVEE. And that one looked amazing in the videos that I saw. If it's the one that I'm thinking of. Yeah, so really glad to see the progress happening in Blender. I really wish Blender was more of a thing in the industry. I mean, it's just the sad truth that you won't... well, they will obviously let you use Blender in your job. I'm pretty sure that once you get a job in a big company, they will just tell you, please model this. You'll be briefed on what the outcome should be. And then you're basically free to do whatever you want. And you can definitely switch back to Blender. It's just that often they will ask you to work on projects that other people, like, continue where other artists left off. and then you'll be forced to use software like ZBrush and Maya in your job. And so they're not going to hire anybody who has no experience in Maya and ZBrush. So whether you still continue using Blender or not, if you want to get a job, if that's your goal, you won't find a way around it at the moment until the time where Blender becomes more of a thing in the industry, or you just join a studio that uses Blender as their main tool in first place. Obviously that's another choice that you can go for. And about my nose here, I'm at a point where I have most of the details, or like most of the shapes are in place. Now I'm entering this phase of adjusting things over and over and over until I'm like happy with it, because obviously right now things are still out of place, but I have like most of everything prepared, everything's in place, so I just need to continue adjusting and try to focus on my learning during this time, because I want to see which parts I got off on my first try and which parts I thought were different. One thing that I realize now is that I made this way too high. Like, there might be a person looking like this, but I would almost have to go back to the bone and reduce this height. I could try to just shorten my teeth to kind of fake that. Let me try that. But I'm not trying to fix everything for the sculpt. I'll just accept it as it is and do better on my next one. It's practice, obviously. And that's the good thing, again, about doing this as practice. I mean, nobody forces me to deliver results. It's not a commissioned work or something where I have to produce. There is no deadline. I just know that I want to keep going. So yeah, I have lots of motivations with this approach. Should I try using Blender at some point for sculpting? I guess I can give it a try, but I'm not very confident about doing anything very beautiful over there. But I guess I should give it a try. We'll see. I like how Blender's sculpting system updates the typology live. Like in ZBrush, you have to actually, you know, press the button for recalculating every now and then, which also has its advantages, of course, but in Blender you just don't think about it, you just start and yeah, you don't stop with sculpting. By the way, this inside-out approach to anatomy also gave me a chance to learn the inside of the mouth a bit better. Like, only because I did this, I get a feeling for how thick the lip is going to be, how much, how wide the inside should be of the mouth, and so on. So again, it has quite some advantages, I found at least, to do studies of anatomy, even though you will never end up modeling the bone in an actual character sculpt. So Erwan is asking why I switched to ZBrush. I mentioned it kind of earlier, but I guess some people hadn't joined yet. So basically you need to have skills in ZBrush to get a job in the industry. And also I really like the way the brushes work. Like, I'm not just using it because I have to. I just really love the way the tools really allow me to get to the shape that I'm imagining way better than the tools in Blender do. So that's the other thing. It's like comparing Photoshop to some other free drawing app. Of course, both of them are good for drawing, but you know how the brushes feel a little bit different when using them? How once you're used to one of them, it's very like you just have hard times to get to the result that you want to see with the other one. It's sort of that situation. So I can sort of predict how the shapes are going to be with ZBrush, but not with Blender. It's difficult. But I haven't tried it in a long time, so I should give it another try, for sure. Wow, 1.5 hours already. I'm thinking about where I want to go with this sculpt, until when I should stream. Paintstorm statue is good. I don't know. I should try it. Somebody just suggested that one as a 2D art program. I've actually never heard of it, but I was interested in these different tools for drawing recently anyway, so I think I'll give it a try. Wow, different drawing programs come up. I don't know them actually, to be honest. I'll give them a try later. So I'm thinking about doing another 5 minutes, just seeing how far I can get with this sculpt, and then I'll call it a day for the stream. So if you have any other questions that you want to ask, feel free to do so. And I'll think about how to get back to streaming next week again in a more interesting, more engaging way, maybe. I'll think about that. I think today was a good start, but I think I can make streams better in the future. Since I don't have the time to make the videos anymore, so just please, yeah, excuse me for that, I guess. Definitely, like somebody's asking if you can make a character in Blender and switch to ZBrush for the details, and that's a very good workflow in my opinion. Again, for a job in the industry, I don't think that will be enough. They will want you to have enough knowledge about Maya that you can work with the people in the team. But for your own projects, this is a very good way to avoid paying too much money, because Maya is obviously very expensive if you're not a student and you're not using it as a student license. So yeah, in that case you would be doing all the polygon modeling in Blender and move to ZBrush for the details, and you'll have all the tools at your hand, like baking normals and stuff in Blender. So that's a very good way of utilizing both tools equally in whatever they are good at. AJ Edwards is asking when I started doing 3D. I started when I was 12 years old, but don't get too frustrated about that. It's not like that's all you need to become a good artist. It's really not about starting early. You can start at any time. And really, I feel that I didn't make any progress in the first couple of years. I was not I didn't have the right mindset yet. I still had to learn a lot in order to gain speed in my learning process. Like all these techniques that I talked about, like setting your goals in a more intelligent way and things like that, these came when I was older, when I was 16 maybe, and I got more serious about it. So I thought at the beginning that I started with 3ds Max actually. I thought it was a game because it was just randomly installed on the computer at home at my place. So I just tried it and I thought it was really fun because you can make objects and move around. It was just like a video game. And I continued doing it and people were praising, well, what I was doing. So I just, as a kid, 12 years old, I enjoyed doing that. And then at some point we had this little session during my art class in high school where they would ask us to learn Blender. And I was like, oh my god, that's exactly what my hobby is, 3D modeling. And so doing that in class really gave me lots of attention. So it was another really great experience which really pushed me into doing more. But then I spent more time on it and I realized how much you can learn in there, and I realized how much I wanted to do in the future, and this is where everything got more serious, where I started to look at it more strategically. So in total I'm at it for 8 or 9 years, doing polygon modeling for 8 years, drawing for maybe 4 years, and sculpting for maybe 2 years. But yeah, that's pretty much my story for me. If you're still young and you're at it, you know, really stick to it. This is your chance to grow. I mean, never blame yourself for not having done enough when you were young, of course. But if you're young right now and you're motivated into it, you know, I really encourage you to think a lot, listen to many opinions on YouTube, and then get to work. You know, then actually take the pen and on your tablet or whatever and start working in 3D, because then you can also grow the same way. Don't be too have too high expectations, but then again, many people on YouTube share their ideas about how you can keep yourself motivated. Just know that don't expect that it's yeah, I'm 21. Yeah, I didn't. Oh, I guess you calculated that. I was just guessing the numbers though. I'm surprised that they actually lined up. And one final technical question, I guess. Let me just finish answering the questions that are here now, and then I'll call it a day. Yeah, I mean, just to... yeah, okay, question time. So, somebody's still asking, face rigging, bones or shape keys? I think it depends a lot. I guess for more stylized anime characters, they will tend to use bones because of ease of use, but I feel like the industry uses shape keys more recently, especially when you want a very expressive facial expressions. For many games I saw behind the scenes, like making of kind of videos where they show that they have different shape keys for all kinds of expressions, so that's definitely a thing. If you work in sculpting, I suggest using a pen, and like a tablet pen thing, drawing tablet. And if you're doing polygon modeling, I think the accuracy of a mouse is more important. Yeah, exactly. Somebody, AJ Edwards, just said exactly the same thing. Very good. And to all the others who commented that they just started recently and about your age, I see that everybody's really motivated. Stick to it and good luck. And to conclude with my model here, I think I learned today again. I kind of deepened my knowledge. I solidified it a bit. There are many points that I want to keep working on, but this is going to be a process of another 2 hours, just, you know, pushing vertices around here and there. So yes, I hope you liked today. I hope you enjoyed this stream. I will hopefully be back soon. Anything else I want to say? No, I guess that's all. Alright, thanks for joining so much, and see you again hopefully very soon. Bye bye.